Hello, beautiful community. Few of you have asked me to talk about Tucker Carlson's commentary on the Lex Friedman podcast about the killing by Mr. Putin of Alexei Navalny. And we're going to do that in a very responsible, sociological, illuminating way that actually goes to the heart of what makes you scared about your political system. So we're not going to do some kind of gossip hot take here and just shoot people down. We're going to talk about what's actually happening with our democracies. This is a much more important chat than, my last main channel video on Navalny, about which I'll say something at the end because there's some things I don't like about that video. So you all know the sorts of stuff that Tucker Carlson would have said. There's no point in me showing you the clip or reciting it. It's basically, we're not sure what happened, could have been this, could have been that, could have been something else. And I'm not going to ban you from dunking on Tucker Carlson, but that's not what we're going to do here. We're going to look at what's actually going on, not with him, but with the derailment from truthful discourse in our societies. Tucker is very algorithmically driven. What he says is palpably, in some ways, in a way I know better than you do because I'm on the other side of the algorithmic picture. I understand very well how the way people speak is intertwined with the algorithmic feedback they're getting. But Tucker is overwhelmingly algorithmically driven. He's not a Russian asset, he is an asset of algorithms. That's to say, he's an asset of his audience's most superficial whims as they are conditioned by algorithms. And so the best thing for him to say under these circumstances is, who knows what happened with Navalny's death. But this is why I want you to pay attention now, because it's really important to talk about this. We have got a social crisis in our societies that pits truth against a sense of political agency. That's to say, truth is pitted against people's sense that they can meaningfully be part of the political system that runs their society, meaningfully be part of the political culture that obtains in their society. And so we've got large chunks of our population feeling increasingly like their sense of agency is obliterated by what people like you and me might call true or factual observations about the world. And the way we respond to this social crisis is absolutely horrendous, I've got to say, on both sides. One side, and that's the side that Tucker Carlson swims through, says people are having a crisis of political agency, and that's because they have the truth and the truth is being denied. Well, I don't think so. I think that the sorts of things people think who are losing trust in our political systems are often half true, sometimes true, but a very large percentage of the time they're lies. So let's take a very clear example. The last presidential election in the United States. It's just not true to say that Donald Trump won it. But people feel enormously oppressed by the thought that he didn't. Right? But one terrible, terrible response to this tension is to just say, yes, people have lost a sense of agency, but that's because they have the truth and the establishment, our political system, just denies the truth. The second really terrible response is the response you're mostly exposed to. Some of you are caught up in that response. And that response says, there is no social crisis because all that's happened is that these people have a problem with ignorance, they have a problem with rationality, and they have a problem with being victims of malign foreign interference. And what you've got at the level of citizens who follow these two narratives about the social crisis is a situation where the sorts of people who, might swim in the waters that bring you to the conclusion that Trump won the last election, these people might be described as finding their political system opaque, finding that it doesn't make sense, finding that therefore there is no point having certain kinds of cause and effect, rational thoughts about it. It might just as well be thrown out of the window. So they're suffering from opacity about their political institutions. But audiences that enthusiastically consume much mainstream centrist political commentary on US TV, for example, fall for another kind of opacity. What they find opaque is the social crisis, right? They just deny it. They think it's about ignorance or irrationality. They don't think that there's a real problem there. And the consequence of this is that you don't do anything about the problem we're facing. You just assume that it'll pass because it doesn't have any meaningful causes. It's not in any meaningful way generated by recent politics in the West over the last couple of decades. And all we need to do is just sit and wait, do nothing, sit and wait until people who are deluded and post-truth wise up. That's actually the preponderant approach of centrist politics and centrist political commentary. And if you divide our political discourse into two bits, you might say, well, half of it is in this centrist camp that casts the crisis as unreal and blames citizens for being irrational and ignorant. And then the other half says that the establishment, political institutions haven't just lost trust, they've lost trust in the way that the people who don't trust them anymore actually have the truth in their hands. And both of these perspectives are catastrophic for our democracy. Much of the and so let's tie this to Tucker Carlson now. So the stuff that Tucker swims in entrepreneurially in relation to Putin and the Navalny killing, I mean, he half knows it's BS, but his audience buy into it. And no, I'm not going to say that his audience have the truth and that people who think that Putin took out Navalny are wrong or jumping prematurely to the conclusion. I'm telling you that Putin, engaged in a political taking of Navalny's life. So I don't want to mince my words here on this particular issue. It's a lie to deny this. But the centrist perspective tells us that Tucker's audience denies it because it's under the influence of malign foreign interference and it's ignorant and irrational. And all we need to do is just keep saying that to them, or keep mocking them and just waiting. So this is a profound sort of ideological cocoon that is pretty much as delusional and as destructive as the ideological cocoon of a Tucker voter. So that's what's very important to understand about that interview with Lex Fridman. I don't want to mix Lex Fridman into it. Lex is not an entrepreneurial exploiter of algorithmic currents. He has integrity. For now, it's not easy to keep integrity in this environment, but he has it. Tucker doesn't. But the correct response fundamentally is to talk about this social crisis that we're living through, to which the two central responses in our culture are terrifyingly inadequate.